Hello, tired of the hypocrisy here, signing on again. I wanted to talk about, I'm going to be a talker today. uh, yeah, I wanted to share a little bit of some of the experiences I've had since I've been fading um, out of the Watchtower cult. Um, Over the years, uh, way back in the early 70s, and up through the late 70s even, like I had said in previous videos, my folks were kind of in and out of the organization. They'd smell BS and they'd quit going for a while. And back in the day, that's the way it used to be. You could not go, and the elders wouldn't come around for quite a while sometimes. Sometimes they would, but most of the time they just didn't seem to care all that much. But now it seems like they'll make a couple of tries at trying to get you to go back to meetings, and then if you don't go, you don't really give them a reason to be suspicious about anything. You're busy with work or whatever. Eventually, now it seems like they start to shun you just for being a little irregular at the meetings and field service. And I mean, since I haven't been regular at a meeting in, wow, ages, 15 years, maybe more. And we went a little bit when we moved out here, and we live on the same street that my father-in-law was living on when he was alive, and his brother lives on the same street here. And I remember we had a little bit of a falling out with that guy. That guy is kind of a jerk. I didn't realize how big of a jerk until just a few years ago, really. Um, I can get along with just about anybody. I mean, we went to a funeral one time. Had to go all the way to San Jose, California for that one because my wife's uh, aunt by marriage passed away. Not a witness. Her kids aren't witnesses. Um, Most of her boys went to Vietnam and they actually survived. They came back. They were U.S. Marines, and they survived and they came back. And I mean, my wife was kind of worried. I don't know why she thought I was kind of uptight or whatever. She said she didn't think that these guys were my kind of people for some reason. And we went to the memorial service there at the funeral parlor. They had a chapel there, and then we went back to the house, and uh, my wife had gone to go talk with her auntie and some of the cousins, the girl cousins, and she left me there in the front room with the guys. And when she came out, she was all surprised that I was getting along with them. And uh, one of her cousins looks almost exactly like Danny Trejo, the actor. He's the guy that comes out as Machete on the movies now. That guy with the great big tattoo across his chest, and he looks a lot like that guy, long hair and everything, built about the same too. And we were sitting there laughing, and they were sharing memories of their mom and good times they'd had and everything. And my wife was really surprised that I get along with this guy. And I'm like, what, you know? So I get along with people from all walks of life, you know. And so we were there sitting having some coffee at my father-in-law's kitchen table, me and my father-in-law and his brother. And there were some young girls, probably 13, 14 years old, walking in front of the house. And his brother stood up and he says, "Oh, voy a ir para afuera. Les voy a hablar de la verdad." translating to English, that's like, ooh, I've got to go outside. I'm going to speak to those two young girls about the truth. And he had a lecherous look on his face. And my father-in-law told him to shut up and sit down and behave himself. And so that kind of gave me a little bit of a hint of weirdness there. But as the conversation progressed, we were talking. My father-in-law always liked to talk about spiritual things. The Bible was his favorite thing to talk about. And we were talking about the qualifications for being an elder. And the idea of the topic of, spousal abuse came up, and I was talking about it and how I had seen some in my congregation. And I was just saying, there's nothing lower on this earth than a man who beats up his own family, his wife and his kids. And the uncle, he got kind of pissy, and he just got up and he walked out. And I'm like, what's wrong with him? And my father-in-law just kind of shrugged. And then when I came home, I was talking to my wife about it, and she said, well, he beats the hell out of my auntie. He beats up his wife. I'm like, well, are you serious? And I said, well, he got all mad. I said, I thought he was going to punch me. And she goes, he might have. He's kind of a violent guy. And I'm like, wow. He beats her up. And she goes, well, when I was younger, his daughter was getting a bath. She was like maybe 6 months old, and my aunt was giving her a bath, and she slipped because she was all soapy, and the baby hit her head on the edge of the sink and got a little, like a lump on her head. And he came home from work, and he said, what happened to her? Why is she banged up? And she said, well, she slipped in the sink while I was giving her a bath. And he just deliberately balled up his fist and gave her a backhand in the same spot above the eye where the baby had a mark on her head. He goes, how do you like it? And another time, I don't know, he didn't get the right dinner that he wanted, or it wasn't warm enough, or whatever. It was some stupid thing. And he took his wife and locked her in the car in 100-degree temperatures, and pulled the door handles off and the window rolling down handles, and left her in the car baking in the sun. And my father-in-law asked him, where's your wife? Haven't seen her around. And he said, well, I did this and locked her in the car. And father-in-law beat the hell out of him and made him take him to her, and they pulled her out of the car half dead. And so that's the kind of guy this guy is. He's a real ass. And he's a drunk. And here's the funny thing about this guy. His wife, I like her a lot. She took the kids to the meetings, and he stayed home drunk a lot of the time. He never liked the meetings, and who can blame him? But the kids all grew up and became pioneers, at least auxiliary pioneers. But I think 3 of the 4 of them are regular pioneers to this day. His son is a ministerial. The eldest daughter never got married. She's getting close to 40 and never had kids, and that's kind of a shame. But maybe she figures bringing children into this world isn't a good thing, especially if they're going to end up married to a guy like her dad, But so the kids are, if you look at it through the eyes of a Jehovah's Witness parent, the kids are stellar. They're reaching out. They get invited to international conventions. They do the whole deal. Very pleasing to the eyes of society. And one day he just got it up his butt that he should be an elder because his kids are exemplary children, that he raised these kids. And that's why he should be an elder. And so he invited the elders over to his house and had dinner for him. And when he wants to really lay it on thick and show off, he makes them a shrimp dinner, you know. And so they came over and they had the nice shrimp dinner and the nice wine and the whole deal. And he proposes the idea to the elders that they should make him an elder. Never having served as a ministerial servant, never having been a regular publisher, you know. I guess he figured that beating the hell out of his wife and eyeballing, teenage girls would qualify him to be an elder. I mean, that's kind of qualification nowadays, it seems like. But they told him that they would think about it, they'd talk about it, and then when they came back with the answer, he didn't like it because they said that he didn't qualify. And he said, well, I raised my kids, and look how they turned out, and I deserve to be an elder. And they said, well, you don't qualify. And he grabbed them. He grabbed a couple of them and pinned them to the wall and said that he was going to kick their asses if they didn't make him an elder. And so they said that they'd have to go talk about it again, and then they just never went back. And they just told him at the hall the next time they saw him was that, no, he doesn't qualify. And so he said, well, if I don't get to be an elder, I'm going to pull all my pioneer kids out of your congregation and we're going to go elsewhere. And they said, well, that's your privilege, and that's what he did. And they all moved to the other congregation. It's all in the same kingdom hall, but they're at the other congregation now. And he went to those elders. I guess he thought the other elders wouldn't talk to them about it. And he tried the same thing with them, and they showed up for the shrimp dinner and the wining and dining and everything, but they didn't say yes either. He's really quite a character. He's a drunk, and my nickname for him is Count Druncula. And he's very judgmental and very opinionated, and he never tells me a thing, though. It's kind of funny. My son, at one point, was growing his hair out long, and he had a great big mane of long curly hair, and he looked like a rock star. And hey, my son's a really good guitarist, so why not, And he would see my son when he was out on a walk or whatever, and he didn't tell my son anything, he didn't tell me or my wife anything, but he went to his brother and said, well, what are you going to do about this? And father-in-law said, nothing. Why? He goes, well, you're the grandfather, you've got to say something. He goes, he's got two parents over there. If anybody's going to tell him anything, don't you think it should be them? Why don't you go talk to Tired of the Hypocrisy or his wife? And he never did. But my father-in-law talked to me about it. And he said, I just thought that I'd tell you this is what's going on. And so my response was to grow my hair out long. The other thing was when they were going to announce the stoppage of book studies in the homes, I knew 3 or 4 months in advance. And I talked to my father-in-law about it, and he said, oh, really, that's interesting. He said he said the book study in the homes was the most important meeting, especially in times of persecution. We need to have those. And I said, well, I'm just telling you what I heard. And he sat on it for a while. And then they announced it at the Kingdom Hall, and his brother comes running over, and my father-in-law wasn't well enough to be attending meetings anymore, so he ran over there with the big news. Guess what? We just heard from the platform. Brand new news from Bethel. We're not going to have book studies in the homes anymore. And my father-in-law said, yeah, Tired of the Hypocrisy told me. And he goes, what? Yeah, he told me like 3 or 4 months ago. He told me about that. He goes, eso es apostasía. Meaning, that's apostasy. No. I don't know how that qualifies as apostasy, but that's what he called it. Anyway, yeah, fading and being an apostate are just about the same thing, I guess. Well, I just thought I'd share those stories with you guys. Thanks for listening, and God's blessings on you all, and we'll talk again soon. Take care.